Hello, everyone, and welcome to this year's annual general meeting for the Data Visualization Society. I'm Amanda McCulloch, and I'm our executive director, and I'm so excited to be here with other colleagues of mine and board members who are joining us to go ahead and talk through the achievements of 2023 and what we've done in 2024. Can we get some hellos from folks who are around our round robin here, popcorning? Just a quick name and introduction of who you are and your role on the board.
Hi all, I'm Jill, the programs director.
I'm Jason, publications.
Hi, I'm Alex, communications.
Katia, diversity, equity, and inclusion.
I'm Rochelle, I'm the knowledge director.
You go, Marilia.
I'm Marilia, the outgoing events director.
Hi, everyone. My name is Angel Velarde. I'm the operations director calling from Vietnam right now.
And Kaushik hanging out here in the corner. Welcome, Kaushik. It's great to have you joining us. I know that you're also on travel right now, so thanks for making time. We always want to start out by recognizing and starting with our board, some of whom you'll hear throughout the session today. If you've joined us for past annual general meetings, you'll see that we've changed the structure a bit, so you're not sitting and listening to an update from each individual board member. As we go ahead and dive into what the topics are going to be today, we're going to be focusing on diving into this annual general meeting, which is in our bylaws and important to us as a nonprofit professional association. As the Data Visualization Society, we are a 501c3 nonprofit, and we do focus on bringing people together from across the data viz community around the world. And today will be all about how we've done that in 2023, what we're looking forward to in 2024, and all the ways that our community has supported us. We're led by a board of directors, many of whom you just were introduced to here, as well as an advisory council who support us and provide additional guidance around how we approach and do our work. And I cannot overstate the amazing work that our directors do in terms of being a working board that really steps up and runs the day-to-day operations of the Data Visualization Society. Without these board members, DVS could not and would not be what it is today. Our advisors also play an important role of helping to connect us to people across the industry and across different facets of the data visualization world, from academia over to industry and design. And so if you ever have questions about how to get more involved, either as part of the board, as a committee member, or otherwise, we're always happy to take questions. As we go ahead and recognize folks, we want to also recognize many of the contributors who have been key players in making our programs possible this year. From our Nightingale team, including our managing editor, content editor, and creative director, Emily, Claire, and Julie. Our IIB awards manager, who was fielding many of your questions, Kira. Jane Zhang, who you probably see popping up on Slack on a regular basis, sharing her knowledge and wisdom and sharing out information about what's happening, and going ahead and diving into the folks who support some of the other programs, including Katerina, who manages mentorship with Jill, and our team assistant, who helps make scheduling and things like that a little bit easier. All of DVS's work would not be possible without the volunteer support from our board and the many volunteers and team members. And we've estimated that the board alone, just the board, puts in at least 3,120 hours annually. And you actually see that reflected on our tax return when you look at our tax return from the IRS for 2022, that more than half of the balance of that return is estimated volunteer hours. So thank you to everyone who makes DVS activities possible. So let's talk about why we're here today and what an annual general meeting is. An AGM is a meeting of the general membership of an organization. For us, that's you as our members. And for companies, this might be a meeting of shareholders, but things are a bit different as a nonprofit membership association. As a 501c3, our members act as our voting constituents. You have the opportunity to vote on whether you approve or disapprove the slate of candidates put forward towards the board. And if there are bylaws amendments being put forward, you also have a voting stake in how the organization is run, governed, and shaped. We really appreciate that you're here, whether you're watching in real time or joining us virtually, to find a way to go ahead and continue to stay engaged in the future of the DVS and find ways to weigh in on what our leadership looks like next year, well, this year, 2024. Your role is to hear updates, review priorities, and to ultimately, as a dues-paying member, vote on a slate of candidates for the open board roles. And Rochelle will be diving into more of that in the future. As we go ahead and look at what our agenda looks like, we'll focus first on overall updates, then talk about finance, then the slate, and then do our closing remarks. As we walk through these different sections, we hope we'll be able to hold time for your questions, but if we don't get to them during the session, we're happy to go ahead and field them over on Slack. So let's talk about who the Data Visualization Society is, in case you're someone who was just endlessly curious to join an annual general meeting and see what that was all about. We're actually celebrating 5 years in February. Next month will mark our 5th birthday. We were founded in February of 2019 as an idea that came out of the Tapestry Conference in 2018, founded by Elijah, Molly, and Amy. And it's been a wild ride of 5 years as we've continued to grow our membership in different ways. As we think about the way our community has grown, we've seen our membership grow, but we've also seen the broader channels and spaces where we share information grow as well, with upwards of 144,000 followers on LinkedIn alone, as well as a large footprint on Twitter, X now, sorry, and Instagram and other spaces. We also have migrated and moved a lot of our content onto our bespoke platforms and websites, including the Nightingale Digital Journal, to make sure that it's open and accessible to folks to engage with. As we think about our goals as an organization, there's 3 key pillars we've really indexed on. We want to nurture and build a cross-functional, tool-agnostic community for sharing ideas, learning, and best practices for data visualization design, which now reaches, in our membership numbers alone, not including that social footprint, over 160 different countries. You can see where some of our top numbers come from, thanks to a partnership we did this year with the Information Lab and the Data School, where they provided us with some support around some data management, member data management, and getting a better sense of where our membership numbers are and look like right now. Well, you can see that we have a really large contingent in the US and in parts of Europe. We're also excited to see growing communities in Brazil, India, and Australia. We want to find ways to celebrate the great work happening in the data visualization space through the many different programs that we'll talk about throughout today's session, and to advance the data visualization industry. It's such an interesting time to be working in data and technology, with all of the questions happening around the kind of cutting edge technologies and AI integration into our work, but also in the ways I think that that kind of technology wave has inspired many of us to go back and think about the ways in which we want to get back to pen and paper and physical objects, and that's really important. As we go ahead and we dive into our topics today, we're going to be focusing on these 3 different themes and hear from different board members sharing some of the key ways in which we've achieved these goals of nurturing, celebrating, and advancing the field of data visualization over the last year. With that, I'm going to go ahead and excuse my fellow board members from the screen and pop up Jason, our publications director, who has been, I cannot overstate, an incredible leader for the Data Visualization Society. The Nightingale Journal, the digital version and the print, would not exist without Jason. And so I'm excited to welcome him to the stage to go ahead and talk about the ways in which we've been nurturing the community and the role especially that Nightingale plays in that. It's not just a place for celebration, but a place for building community. And with that, Jason, I'm going to give you the floor.
Why, hello, everybody. Now you get to see my face extra big. Bye, rest of board. Yeah, Jason Forrest here. I am the publications director. I have the absolute pleasure of talking about how we nurture our community. Amanda, if you want to go to the next slide. Yeah, maybe as I start to pull this up, and we can go ahead and go full screen. I've been actually a part of the Data Viz Society since day one. I think I'm in the first 10 people that signed up. At one point, I was the #1 Slack poster. So folks on the watching the stream and/or in the chat can probably see, and I probably chatted with you on Slack before. So this is actually my last official duty as the publications director, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But I'm here to talk about nurture, and I'm going to start with Nightingale because that is my remit. And I will say that I have said before that Nightingale is a community celebration. It is literally the focus of everything we do, every meeting, every magazine, every blog post, every decision is focused on our community. And, you know, I think it's important to recognize that we have a global discourse as I'll talk about in a few minutes, that wasn't necessarily always the case. We have always focused on new voices. We had at some point around 30 to 35 of of all authors being first-time publishers. And it is that dedication to working with people to find new voices, to expand the discourse, which has actually been our continual editorial focus. Look at that. Editorially speaking, I should actually cut the word focus from both of those bullet points, or at least from one of them. The other catch that we've really focused a lot on is operations. Creating a sustainable organization in Nightingale and Nightingale Magazine has actually been a big part of our work. Yes, we've kept publishing week by week, post by post, social media post by social media post, but really understanding how to cultivate a team, how to provide an infrastructure for e-commerce and global distribution has always been number one for us. If you want to go to the next slide. Nightingale Magazine. So to date, we have shipped 6,404 magazines around the world to 52 countries. Yes, you know, it hasn't necessarily been clockwork. It's that's the nature of an organization that's still maturing. Issue 4 is done. That was the cover we saw on the last slide, and it literally does go to the printer next week. We swear. All of our print Nightingale magazines are available as a digital copy in PDF form. You go to the DVS website, go to Nightingale, and the bottom one, digital version of Nightingale print magazine, and you can see the PDFs, all available to all members. If you want to go to the next one, please, Amanda. NightingaleDVS.com. This is our website. So we have published 140 articles this year, 8 less than last year. We have actually around, I think that actually is the last year number, 629,000, 100,000 page views. We actually had about 400,000 page views this year. And we've talked a lot about a slight slippage when it comes to viewers. And honestly, I think it's the erosion of social media. We've definitely seen numbers of Twitter. I'm staying with the word Twitter. Numbers really, really plummet, as clearly that community has fractured, and for good reason. The Gale newsletter, however, has grown substantially from only about 3,000 or 4,000 subscribers up to 21,000. That is also due mainly to emerge with the main DVS newsletter. But we see a tremendous amount of activity on the newsletter, increasingly so. Direct email communications are really the best way to engage with the community. We have about 35 to 45% open rates and click-throughs. So it's really great. And the strength of that, again, doubles down on the strength of our community. Big changes are happening in Nightingale land. Our dear friends Claire Santoro and Emily Barone, our content editor and managing editor, are both leaving. They have great new opportunities that they are exploring. And so we are so thankful to have worked with them. Emily for the last year and Claire for the last 3 years. You really would not have a Nightingale print magazine if it wasn't for Claire Santoro. She is literally the one that had the reins for the Nightingale magazine for the last 2 years. It's been really, really exciting. And we welcome Will Carreri. He is our new managing editor, and we'll be filling the role of the content editor soon. And hey, actually, Amanda, put that slide up full screen again, because look at that. There's an email there, nightingale@datavisualizationsociety.org. Get involved. And that is probably the segue to my next slide. Ta-da! So this is, like I said, this is my last official publications director moment. And Amanda asked me to share some reflections. And I think it's very, very important to reflect on the fact that we did not have a community before that was this broad, this global, this inclusive. Before Data Viz Society, we had communities of practice or communities on tools, but now we have a wide-ranging umbrella. You know, there was no better place to witness the multiplicity of viewpoints, perspectives, and certainly occupations as opposed to from Outlier. Outlier was an incredible event where it was so exciting to walk up to meet somebody in finance talking to somebody talking in global health. That's something that we'll hear a little bit more from. But listen, as we reflect, I think it's also important for me to share, maybe a little push, which is you got to get involved. As we move into our next 5-6 years, there's lots of reasons, there's lots of opportunities to get involved. And when you get involved, especially from a nurture standpoint, there's a lot of benefits. It's really fun. It's incredible networking. You make lots of friends. It's funny. I was actually talking to a friend earlier who I met in the DataVis Society. And most of the people that I have Slack messages and SMSs and dinner parties with, as a matter of fact, another person from the DataVis Society that we're going to a dinner party with tomorrow. It's a great place. It's a great community. If you want to get involved, you got to get involved. The other thing that you do when you join as part of one of our committees, having more dialogues on Slack, is that you help set the discourse. DataVis is an evolving practice, right? We don't know where it's going to go. It's up to us in the community to figure out how we want to define ourselves, what our voices can be, and really what's even the possible impact from this professional organization. And the last thing is, and I'm going to just swear about this, you will learn a lot. I still find it kind of bizarre that people think of me as a DataVis expert because I feel like I'm still new to the practice, but you learn so much. I mean, having published thousands of articles and editing certainly multiple hundreds of them, it's a great way just to get involved with people, to bounce off ideas, to learn what they're bringing to the table, and to share your own thoughts. So really, really, really want to double down and index on. You got to be a part of a community. You got to contribute to a community in order to be a part of a community. So if you want to go to the next slide. A great way to do that, is when groups within the DataVis Society. Look at that. There's local chapters, 16 different affiliated groups, Mumbai, Portland, Madrid, London, Jakarta, New York City. We're getting that New York City started back up in earnest, starting, I believe, in March. We have 6 special interest groups, groups focused just on color, groups focused just on health, DataVis for kids, plenty of opportunities. And guess what? You want to make a group? You have some new agenda that you want to find others to talk about and to build a discourse with? Just get involved. Just get in touch. We're happy to. We're happy to find more ways for people to connect. And my last slide, if you want to go to that one, please. The mentorship program. Oh my gosh, I have been so delighted to be a part of the mentorship program. First as a mentee, I actually still meet with my mentor weekly after almost 4 years now. There's been a whole lot of people involved this year. 409 applicants across 15 time zones, 232 mentors, 300 matches. Every one of those matches represents a person growing, learning, sharing, contributing. It's really, really important. And obviously, I am a huge supporter of the mentorship program. As you can see, there are 3 different cohorts for the next year: February to April, June to August, and then September to November. It's roughly a 12-week experience with 2 group events and usually a minimum of 6 sessions. I understand from our outgoing community member, Jill Brown, that we're supposed to give a huge shout out to Katerina. She has really fostered the success of this program, and we thank her so much for her service. I think that's it for me, Amanda. Back to you. Oh, there's Jill.
Great. Oh, hey, there's Jill. There's everyone. We're back. Thank you so much, Jason, for that great update and for talking about the ways in which we focused on nurturing our community over the course of the past year. I love your emphasis on how people can get involved, right? We're a community membership organization. I think sometimes people look at it and think, someone else is taking care of that. I promise that's not always the case. We would love to have you reach out with ideas if you're willing to take the reins and actually lead on some of those programs and projects. With that, I'll let Jason go ahead and hop off and welcome to the stage Jill and Marilia. They'll be talking about the ways in which we've celebrated the world of data visualization over the course of the past year, starting with Marilia and then moving over to Jill, who will continue on and talk about the ways in which we've worked on advancing the data visualization industry. So I'll go ahead and hop up the slides, and we'll hand it over to both of you wonderfully capable board members who have done, every single person who comes up on this stage, I'm like, we could not have achieved a global international hybrid conference or IIB awards or so many things that we're about to hear about without both of your time and support and the running around I know that happened to make those things possible. Jill was cutting fabric slices. Marilia is trying to figure out things around making lunch happen in the very narrow windows we had. Like, it's not just the big vision pieces, it's all the little execution bits that our board really takes care of. So huge thanks to Jill and Marilia for all of your service.
Well, thank you very much, Amanda. I'm actually I'm getting a bit emotional today because it will be my last day as an events director, and definitely it has been so. It has only been a year, but it looks like it was much more than that. For now, let's you can move on to. We wanted to share with you some of the numbers of Outlier 2023. But first, I want to say that for those who haven't attended, this was actually the very first edition that we had an in-person conference, a hybrid conference, which was a huge effort, but I think in the end it was definitely worth it. And virtual and remote will always be a consideration for us, and to make sure that everyone who wants to join can join. But meeting everyone in person and knowing the people who we have been working with for so long, it was actually very good. And we did have more than 500 participants, 300 virtually, all over the world, and 200 in Porto, with some people even traveling from Singapore to attend. So it was actually quite good as well. We had more than 100 submissions, and in the end we selected over 30 speakers. We had keynote speakers, we had the regular talks, we also had lightning talks. We still had the possibility of participants to submit on conferences. So there's always the space. We always provide the space and give the opportunity to lots of the speakers, lots of the participants to exchange their ideas. It did take us more than 5 months. I put there 5 months, but maybe 5 to 6 to prepare this hybrid conference. Of course, with a team of volunteers. Not only the Outlier committee, and I have to give a huge shout out to Lloyd, to Kathy, to Elsa, to Yining, to Zara, who were very much helping us during these 5 months, but also to the other volunteers who helped us during the days of the event, and of course to all the team members, and board members who also helped. And since we want to be a bit more transparent about our finances, we also wanted to let you know that to prepare and host a hybrid conference, a truly global conference, it did cost us 110K, which is why, and next slide please, we need to thank our sponsors who did help us putting together this conference, but not only to our sponsors, but also, and next slide please, to all the participants and all the members who buy the tickets, pay the fees, or to help us actually implement these events and these initiatives. We are a nonprofit, as Amanda was saying. We put a lot of volunteer work, but we also have these huge events that we continue to want to implement. But it's not always free, even though we are a not-for-profit. Last slide, please, or next slide. I just wanted to, as Jason, like I said, I'm also this is my very last task, let's call it, or as an events director, and I wanted to leave some ideas, opportunities, and challenges that arose during the the outlier and the discussions after the event, of opportunities, of continuing the work with the local groups, continue investing in voices outside USA and the Anglophone world. We definitely want to continue providing or having Outlier as a space for people, early career professionals, people who are just starting in data visualization, people who are not so well known, and we want to continue providing those spaces, but also focus on sustainability. And I'm sure that Angel and Amanda will talk a bit about this after, the financial and the human resources, and also finding ways to balance the workload for all the volunteers and the team, to make it a bit more sustainable, to continue doing Outlier and all the big initiatives. So I want to thank again to all the team and to everyone who attended. And I hope to see you in Chicago in June. And well, over to you, Jill.
Thanks, Marilia. I really appreciate your comments about Outlier, and I just want to continue on the theme of celebrating. So this was our second year that the Data Visualization Society has hosted the Information is Beautiful Awards. This time is a 2-day event, bringing back the Day of Inspiration, where we heard from folks who had shortlisted visualizations, as well as some wonderful keynote speakers. Of course, a day of inspiration focusing on how data viz gets created is also part of advancing the industry, as well as nurturing the next wave of data visualizers. So we definitely focus on events and programs that touch on all three of our pillars. The event this year was hosted at MICA, Maryland Institute College of Art in Baltimore, Maryland. And MICA has excellent graduate level programming in data visualization and was the perfect forum for the celebration of all things data viz. So to give you a flavor of the awards themselves, this process is no small feat. You, the data visualization community, provided us with 839 outstanding submissions to review, over half of which were works that were created by students or members of the public that had not been professionally commissioned or published. That's amazing and just really goes to show how much data visualization is happening in paid and unpaid spaces. Over a third of the works were made by folks early in their career. And of those 839 submissions, our first round judges narrowed to 84 shortlisted works across our 9 categories. So that's a lot of pruning and kind of really thinking about and looking through each of those data visualizations, hours of review and conversation among the judges. And then the second round judges narrowed those again to 27 category winners, with another set of judges reviewing for the 13 special awards like Rising Star, Outstanding Studio, and Most Beautiful. As always, this is a massive effort, and we want to thank again Kira McLean, our IAB Awards Program Manager, for keeping us on track, MICA, our host and primary sponsor, without which this event would have not taken place, and the 1,000+ hours of volunteer labor it took to organize the submissions, coordinate judging conversations, keeping the website updated, and really helping celebrate this incredible data visualization work from our community. So I really love this kind of theme of celebration, and that we get to do this again in this coming year to celebrate with the IAB Awards, with Outlier, and with other events to really raise up the work of our community. So I'm going to transition now to talk about advance. So we talked about nurturing, we talked about celebrating, and now we're talking about advancing our community. So as a professional organization, we really work in service of our members to advance data visualization as a professional industry. So while not every person who creates data visualizations is a full-time designer, developer, or engineer, we're a discipline with a really emerging set of standards and best practices, and we're all still figuring it out together. In addition, we support including building a more inclusive field, demystifying career paths, creating curricula, and raising awareness of our field among those working in adjacent spaces. So I'm going to talk you through a couple of things that we are doing to advance the field. So the first that I want to bring up is the state of the industry kind of milieu of tasks that we have. So every year we disseminate the state of the industry survey, which a lot of you take, and very much appreciate all of the data that you contribute. And then we compile that into a report and then disseminate the data to our community for a DataViz challenge. And so I have a little bit of a teaser on there for one of the visualizations in our report this year, talking about the different kind of segments of respondents that we have in the survey that is representative of our industry. So we have employees who do freelance work, we have freelancers, we have folks who do other stuff DataViz related that maybe don't work for an organization or do freelance work. They're hobbyists, they're academics, we're students. We do DataViz for passive income. So this is just a little teaser, but we did release the report today, and it is available through February 5th for public release. Otherwise, it's a member benefit. So we'll be able to share that link soon. But definitely take a look and kind of dive in. We will also still be doing our DataViz challenge this year with the State of the Industry survey data. And we'll send out announcements about that as well, and that'll launch in February. In 2023, we also did something different with our State of the Industry survey data. So our former Education Director Erica and committee member Jen, they worked on a report using some of our State of the Industry survey data and supplemented that with additional surveys and interviews from data visualizers in the community. And they created this really cool report that's called Career Portraits in Data Visualization. So it focuses on the types of activities that professionals in different types of roles do as a part of their job, how DataViz is integrated across different roles and what that looks like, and kind of some fun details about chart types that they recently used, and then deep dives into 4 different of these career types, just to give you a flavor of what these different careers sort of look like. So this is available to DVS members. You can take a look at it through the member portal. And it's a really great glimpse into kind of what data visualizers are doing across their career. And it also has an interview video series on our YouTube channel as well. Another thing that we try to do to advance the DataViz community is hosting fireside chats. So we have these nice conversations with professionals as well as folks maybe newer to the field to talk about different relevant topics. So we didn't have quite as many fireside chats this past year as in others, but all of them are on our YouTube channel. So if you haven't watched them yet, there's a nice treasure trove of information there. But this year we did discuss a number of really important topics, like how to teach data visualization. And that topic is of a lot of interest to many more advanced practitioners as they transition to a point in their career of more mentoring and more teaching. We also had a fireside chat about AI and DataViz. So this kind of stemmed from a vibrant conversation in one of our Slack channels. We ended up hosting a discussion about AI, how folks are using AI tools in their DataViz practices, and really what the future holds for AI and data visualization. So I imagine that there will be a nice reprise of that topic area in the coming, 6 months to a year, just because things are changing so quickly and we're learning how to use AI differently in all areas, not just in our DataViz practice. So there's also a new little snippet in the State of the Industry report on AI. So we collected a little bit of data this year and have a little there for you as well. And to kind of round out our advanced section, for practitioners of all levels, we have a growing list of ongoing partnerships that allow DVS members access to discounts on offerings to DataViz and DataViz adjacent organizations. So you can see there's lots of opportunities here for different organizations and their offerings. So definitely take a look. You can find this through the member portal and what those discounts and collaborations look like. And if you are a part of an organization and you don't see your logo on here, we would love to partner. So let's chat. I will definitely leave that conversation to Amanda and partnerships, but wanted to bring that up for all the folks out there who want to collaborate. I know this is a super collaborative community, and we can definitely have those touch points together. So I will turn it over now for a financial update. That is not my area of expertise, but hopefully it rounds out our discussion nicely of our nurturing, celebrating, and advancing in the DataViz community.
Thank you so much, Jill, for all the great updates, and to Marilia for the updates on Outlier 2023. We are excited to have Outlier 2024 on the books, and we'll be talking about timelines for that as we wrap up our conversations today. Angel, great to welcome you to the stage from Vietnam. Glad the Wi-Fi is all holding up well enough.
Yeah, I hope it is.
Thank you so much for your time and for all of your support of all these programs over the past 2 years. All right, so now we're into one of our, let's say my favorite part of these updates, talking about our finances. I think it's important that we continue to strive for greater financial transparency in how we operate as a nonprofit. I think sometimes people hear nonprofit and think free, and that's not exactly the case when it comes to actually running the size and scale of programs that DVS has. So Angel, I will turn it over to you to walk us through our financial update of what our finances look like in 2023 and what we're looking forward to in 2024. I'll stick around in case there's any questions that pop up, since I know you and I work closely together on these 2 areas, but happy to give you the floor.
That's right. It's definitely a partnership between not just us, but myself and everyone on the call. And it actually, it's a good place to kind of transition to this because, all the things that we've talked about to try to, that we do to achieve our mission are done with the help of everyone that has talked and hasn't been mentioned yet. But those 12 board members that we have now, we will have joining, as well as the paid staff that we have, and the dozens of volunteers for all the different programs and events that we've hosted. Those are all part of the operations team to some extent, and they're all part of being able to achieve our mission. So thank you all for all that take part in DVS through all your efforts. And it's the only way that we can do what we do, because as you'll see, as we'll go into with the financial piece, it's all run on a very tight shoestring to try to make it all work. So if we go to the next slide, we can talk a little bit about the financial piece. And I put the last 3 years to kind of give us a little bit of context of where we come from and kind of where we're at now. Over the past 3 years, if you look at 2021, we had a net income, or what you might call on a company as something, a profit of 84,000, and then in 2022 we actually swung to a negative 126,000 in terms of the net income or the profit, and then in 2023 we're now just about break even. We're really hoping to try to break even, but even so, it's such a huge swing to go from negative 126,000 up to basically net to break even, and that had a lot to do with the efforts of everyone that was just in the previous slide, and the staff that we had just talked about. The board that we are on is a working board, but it's also a volunteer board, and so all of that, all the hours that we're putting in is done as a volunteer position, and all those hours do add up to kind of what Amanda, you mentioned before, was hundreds of thousands of dollars of unpaid labor, but it's a labor of love to try to make DVS happen and achieve its mission.
I will say too, I think it's worth chiming in on looking at 3 years. That 3 years marks the moment kind of when we had our paid membership approach more stable in terms of looking at ways to bring in more revenue, which we'll dive into. And if you're looking at that number in 2022 and wondering how DVS actually is still operational, it's because we had some really significant reserves thanks to the generosity of early sponsors in 2019 and 2020 for Outlier and other events that really gave us a great base to work from as we saw some erosion in the interest around sponsorships and other things. Back to you, Angel.
Yeah, let's actually dive into that. Something that shows kind of the strength of DVS is the fact that over the past few years, membership has continued to grow. There is continued interest in DVS and in the product and the services and the great programs that we have. And so that is really encouraging from the perspective of having a sustainable brand and mission that resonates with people. Now, on the flip side of that, something that has been quite challenging over the past few years has been sponsorships. Ever since, and Amanda, you might have more context on this, but especially after COVID, it seems like sponsorships have been really challenging, and we have not been able to raise the kind of sponsorship dollars that we've had in the past, which really led to a lot of the kind of negative dollars and the negative net income that we had over, especially in 2022. And as we started to kind of see that trend continuing over to 2023, we're really focused on cutting costs and kind of right sizing the programs to make sure that we operate it as efficiently as possible.
Yeah, and I think on sponsorships, it's a great point that there's some challenges. I think there's some larger macroeconomic factors that have been really contributing to some of the challenges we've faced too. And part of it, I think, is kind of finding ways to find the right organizations and the right space to partner with. So I'll put out the call that we're always interested in chatting with people who want to support our mission. We have received some various small operational grants from a couple different foundations or from the PayPal Giving Fund that we are incredibly grateful for, which have helped us kind of come to that kind of right sizing of what this year looked like. And we'd love to grow those next year. And I'm excited about the board members that we're putting forward on the slate because some of them bring that kind of expertise to help us really manage and make that leap. Next slide.
Yep, please. Let's talk about Nightingale, because Jason, you gave such a great review of kind of what we've done to get where we are, and kind of seeing here, you can see that it's grown to be this really kind of foundational part of what DVS does. Nightingale is DVS, DVS is Nightingale, and it really is a lot of effort that we put into it, and it pays off in the sense that over time we have grown kind of the amount of revenue that we can get from Nightingale, which is really just a premier journal and such a high quality product that we put out there for celebrating the work that is done in the community. And so, especially going around from 2021 and 2022, as those startup costs of creating the journal came on, we really thought about kind of what is the right cost that we can pass on to the people who subscribe to the magazine, that they can see the journal not just as a magazine that they choose to read, but as an investment into DVS and a collectible that it is, and just a great product to have that's more than just a magazine. We can go to the next one and talk also about the other foundational piece of DVS, which is the conferences. We have grown from having just Outliers and having Outlier as a virtual conference to now having 2 in-person conferences in 2023. And those events, although especially in 2023, as we had both of those events be in person and Outlier and they're also virtual, but virtual and in person, the revenue from that was really a big piece of the revenue that we got in. But the conferences are also, in-person conferences are also quite costly to run. So while we got in more revenue from those conferences, we really just about pulled even on that in terms of the expenses meeting the revenue that we brought in, mostly because of, again, the drop in sponsorships that we were not able to get.
And I do want to flag too, when we think about IIB and the IIB awards, the IIB awards themselves do have a prize pot associated with them. So submission fees does fund that prize pot directly. So around $30,000 of those submission fees get eaten up immediately by the prize pot that goes back to submitters, and nearly the remaining balance of those submission fees goes to funding just managing that event over the course of anywhere from 4 to 6 months in terms of the time and labor. And so one of the things we've really thought about, as Jill highlighted, is how do we make it more of a celebration of great work and not just focusing on the awards component, but worth flagging there in terms of that caveat.
Yeah, so switching over to expenses, because the kind of programs and Nightingale and everything that we put out, it does cost us money. And again, as we ramped up Nightingale in 2022, that did take a lot of money to print everything and ship everything. And even throughout all of that, there's a lot of lessons learned to launching a a magazine from scratch, which I'm sure Jason has talked about and can talk to you even more if you'd like to hear about it. But all those lessons that we've learned from the first year or two of launching the magazine, we really took those lessons. Obviously Claire, but also Emily especially, put a lot of effort into kind of looking at the finances, figuring out where we can cut costs that we don't need, and also kind of align the cost with the cost of the magazine with our own costs, so that we can have a more sustainable print Nightingale magazine that now, as we go into 2024, you will see kind of those expenses kind of coming more at a break-even level, so that when we print the magazine, it is something that, although the first 2 years, really, it was really draining on our finances and really draining on those past reserves that we had from previous years. Going forward, it will be an actual sustainable piece of our programs. Anything else on that one? Because there was a lot of work that went into getting, first launching it, and then the investment that we put into it, but then getting it to a place that it is sustainable. So I don't want to, shortchange the time on this, because it really was a lot of effort. And Jason, if you want, you can even chime in too, because there's a lot of work done on your end on this.
I mean, we gave Emily the remit that said, find a way to make Nightingale revenue positive. And I feel like you all did it and found a way to do it with a lot of labor.
Well, listen, I don't want to, make us too late. I guess the thing is, what you learn about running a small magazine that needs to ship equitably to 51 countries around the world is that we live in an inequitable system when it comes to postage. And so learning how to basically balance all the different aspects of the logistics is it's been fun. So thank you both for your support.
Yes, that's good. All right, so for the next big piece of this, and actually this is actually another big piece of Nightingale, is our paid staff. We could not run all of DVS and Nightingale without the help of the paid staff who do it not just for the paycheck, but we pay relative competitive rates, but in reality, these the people here do way more and go above and beyond what is required of them to help us do everything that we need to do. I'll just shout out one person, Jane in particular, who in her job doing communications, she helps a lot on the operational piece with all of the setting up all of these processes that can operate seamlessly and take up a lot less time and save us time on the board to be able to run all those things. So, but each one of the people listed here, we could not run any of the events without it. We could not run the mentorship program. We could not run Nightingale without the paid services and contractors that we have on here. And the last big piece of our expenses are software and stipends. So on the software piece, especially into 2022, there was we did kind of increase our spending to try to streamline a lot of the processes that new programs that we were putting up, and that did cost a certain amount of money. Going into 2023, again, we were looking for ways to cut costs, and even though we were doing more, we did find ways to cut costs on those software and cloud-based services, and it's something that I think we can continue to look into 2024. But at the same time, if we should continue to find ways to use kind of these automated tools, including AI, which we have not really gotten into too much, to reduce these costs and kind of make sure we operate more efficiently. And then finally, the stipends is also a big piece that I do want to mention, because having all the events that we do have, as well as all of the people who write for Nightingale, we want to be able to provide some kind of stipend to them to reward them for it, even though we are a nonprofit. So we do provide some stipends for that. But as a nonprofit, of course, it's not too much that we can provide, but it's still a significant part of our expenses.
Yep. And we always make sure that we also give free tickets to speakers, other kind of benefits as best we can, which I think actually is not the industry standard in a lot of professional associations or industry pieces. So we're looking for continued ways to grow how we compensate our various speakers and those who contribute and make our events possible. I know that we're getting tight on time. I want to make sure we've got time for nominations. So let's go ahead and wrap up with a few quick reflections, Angel, on looking forward financially. And then we'll hand it over to Rochelle to talk through our slate.
Yeah, I won't read through this because you can read it yourself if you're on the call. So I guess my overall reflection was that from when I started in 2021 and where we are now is the mentality around it has totally shifted from kind of we're growing, let's grow, let's create more programs, let's build this new magazine, etc. to okay, we need to survive. We need to be able to make sure that we are financially sustainable to, hey, we did it. We are financially sustainable. We are now ready to go to the next stage of growth in DVS where we can invest in the mission. And I'm actually really excited for where DVS is right now and where it is going to go in 2024. And even though I won't be on the board, since I'm now in Vietnam and it's a lot harder to be in operations from Vietnam, I'm excited to continue to be part of the DVS in general and see where you guys do with it.
Thanks, Angel. And thanks for all of your work helping to create more systems and structures to keep us organized and keep us on track. I think financial visibility and transparency is a big priority for us as we continue to move forward and grow. I think it's a big reason why people choose to donate or not donate to different nonprofits, and we recognize that. So we hope that this can be a continued conversation and would love your comments in the chat. If you're joining us live, if you've got questions, if you've got other kind of pieces of this that you were like, wait a second, what? We'd love to know what those are. And we'll go ahead and follow up on the DVS Slack channel with those questions. With that, I'm going to go ahead and welcome Rochelle to the stage, who's going to talk through our slate. I expect our meeting's probably going to go about 5 minutes over just as we get through the slate and wrapping things up for awareness for folks. But I hope you'll be willing to bear with us as we present a bit more about the board nominations process and about who's being put forward for this year's new board members. Rochelle, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hand that over to you.
Yes, thank you, Amanda. Thank you for Angel for trying to make our financials fun and engaging. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. So hi, everyone. My name is Rochelle Patella. I have had the pleasure of serving you as your knowledge director for this past year, and I'm delighted to represent the nominations committee today and share the proposed board slate. So for those of you who may be new to the concept of a slate, I'm going to share a little bit more too. So DVS uses a slating process to select new board members on an annual cycle. Candidate applications are reviewed, interviewed, and selected for each of the open roles by the nominations committee. Rather than doing an open vote for each individual position, we're all going to vote on one collective board that's designed to truly represent the diversity of our membership. For the next slide, the nominations committee, that includes a mix of current and former board members who have a deep understanding of the responsibilities and requirements of board members, and active members within DVS who have volunteered to contribute to the process. So the nomination committee members include a range of different backgrounds and areas of expertise, and are tasked with the goal of selecting leaders for our organization who represent a wide range of our members and have a strong vision for the role within the organization. A super big thank you to all who volunteered for our nominations committee this year, who are represented here on this slide. Thank you so much. So for the application, if we can skip one more, please. Thank you. So the search for candidates, it all started with our open application process where DVS members self-nominated for the role or roles that interested them the most. The nominations committee reviewed all of the applications and then selected a short list of candidates for each role to interview. Shortlisted candidates were interviewed by a pair of nominations committee members, typically a current or former board member and an active community member. After conducting interviews with a short list of candidates for each role, the nominations committee met to select the proposed candidate for each open role. These individuals together are going to form the slate that we'll be asking our active dues paid members to vote on shortly. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce you to that slate. I'm going to share just a little bit about each of our fabulous candidates next, but just know that the full biographies are going to be shared with you all after our annual general meeting today. So we're going to start with Danny. So Danny is an accomplished assistant professor of design technology with over 20 years in the field of creative coding, physical computing, web design, and of course, data visualization. And Danny is our proposed candidate for the education director role. He's the founder and CEO of Data Visual, a platform for designing data-driven graphics, and his work has been featured in Fast Company, The Guardian, and more. Next, Emily is a data visualization consultant where she helps enable users to engage with accessible and informative visualizations to make data-informed decisions, and is the proposed candidate for the events director role. Emily is the founder of the Tableau Fringe Festival, which is a global virtual conference on the Tableau ecosystem, co-creator of Data Plus Women and Data Plus Women DC, advisory board member of the Data Leadership Collaborative, and is an accessibility advocate and co-lead for the #AllyTug group. Next, Catherine is a technology and finance professional with 15 years of experience, and she's currently the senior manager of data analytics and insight at Red Lobster, where she leads the business intelligence team. Catherine is also an adjunct lecturer at Northwestern University, where she's been teaching data visualization to graduate data science students for the last 7 years, and is our proposed candidate for operations director. Pierre has over 15 years of experience in accelerating digital transformation and fostering innovative solutions in technology. With a history of aiding giants like Raytheon Technologies and Philips Healthcare in maximizing their digital investments, Pierre has led international teams and shared his expertise on global panels about data standardization. Pierre is our proposed candidate for the partnerships director role. Jennifer, a seasoned professional in data visualization who currently works as a senior consultant with Analytic Vision, is the proposed candidate for the programs director role. Active in the Tableau community, Jennifer serves as a Tableau public ambassador and co-leader for the Cincinnati Tableau user group. She co-founded herdata.net, a platform dedicated to elevating and educating women in the data industry. And last but not least, Elijah is a DVS co-founder and former executive director who has spent over a decade doing data visualization in academia and industry, and is the proposed candidate for publications director. His work has included digital humanities scholarships such as Orbis, the Stanford Geospatial Network Map of the Roman Empire, as well as internal analytical operations for Netflix and Apple. He's written a best-selling book and created a React-based charting library that allows you to create traditional charts and hierarchical and network diagrams. And that completes our slate. So our dues paid members will be voting on those candidates that are shaded in yellow here. Each year, half of the DVS board seats are open for nomination, and that helps us to ensure some organizational continuity rather than having a completely new board every 2 years. And so the executive director, communications director, early career, DE&I, knowledge, and membership director roles will be open for nominations in 2025. So in terms of next steps, the link on the proposed slate will be shared over email and Slack, or you can nab the URL right here from the presentation. A reminder, only our dues paid members can vote on the slate, so please make sure that you use the email address associated with your DVS membership when prompted in the ballot so we can confirm your eligibility to participate. You will only vote once, and you will choose to either accept the proposed slate or reject the proposed slate. Thank you so much. And now I'm going to turn it over to Amanda to close us out.
Great. Thank you, Rochelle, for all of those insights and for talking us through the slate this year. I'm really excited about the folks who we have coming on, some of whom are really active in the DVS community. Elijah coming back to hang out again. I'm excited to get to work with him again, hopefully, in the role of the publications director. And I do think that having this mix of folks with different levels of engagement will help bring both new ideas to the fore and also give us an opportunity to leverage some of the existing knowledge. I also want to recognize, as we think through the ways in which we have kind of set up the slate, and Rochelle, I want to make sure that we take a pin to share this. We did talk a lot about how the slate has shifted to be even more US based. And we want to recognize that as a global organization, that's something that might cause some alarm for some of our international participants. We want to flag that it was a heavily biased pool of applicants from our US organizations. And so you'll see in some of our 2020 or US based locations. And so as we think about our 2024 goals and priorities, a big part of that are things that we hope will go ahead and foster and build a greater leadership pipeline of people coming on from different organizations or different locations and different backgrounds, and to give us additional ways to bring in those individuals as leaders, maybe not even on the board, but as local interest group leaders or community leaders. And Rochelle, if you wanted to share anything else to that effect from our nominations conversation.
No, I think you really hit the nail on the head. And it's just been a pleasure to be involved in this process. And for those who applied and maybe didn't make it forward this time, I really hope that you'll reconsider and apply next year, apply future years. We'd love to be able to accept everybody, but it's just not the reality of how we can operate. But thank you for the time that you gave to this process, whether you were selected for the slate or not. We really appreciate all of our members.
Well, and we do occasionally too have opportunities where a board member has to leave midway through their term for various different reasons, in which case there is an application process, and then the member is selected off cycle by board approval. And so you may see opportunities for that could pop up. And so feel free to stay involved, stay connected, and watch those DVS newsletters. All right, with that, let's go ahead and let's dive into our closing address and talk about thinking about key themes and looking forward. Part of the goal of an annual general meeting is not just to reflect on what has happened, but where we want to go and what we want to do as an organization. We're going to continue to focus on these three key themes around how we nurture, celebrate, and advance the world of data visualization design. The need for that hasn't changed or shifted, especially as the world of technology changes and evolves. And I think that the work that we've done laying a foundation over the past 5 years to build out a thriving journal and a thriving Outlier conference and many other smaller activities and the back-end infrastructure that allows us to continue to operate as a nonprofit are really important. I'll share that DVS actually has term limits for its board members. You can only hold a role on the board for 2 terms. So this will actually be my last year on the board as the executive director. And I'm really excited and very enthusiastic about the fact that we have these kind of constraints, because I think it forces us to think about the ways in which we create an organization that has continuity beyond any one group or team of leadership team members. And so I'm really excited to see how DVS continues to grow and evolve, and to talk a bit about what our priorities are going to be, which will evolve with the thinking from our various new board members in 2024. Priority number 1 for me and for our team is really building community within DVS by nurturing our interest groups and local affiliated groups around the world. This addresses both the need for creating small spaces for community within a large 31,000+ person organization, so you don't just feel like a number, you feel like you know people. And the more you get involved in those local spaces, I think the more connected you'll feel. Second, to strengthen our connections and partnerships with mission-aligned organizations, especially those spaces where they may see data viz as a skill that they want to build, where we have a lot of value to offer, rather than just data viz professionals who think of it as a full-time job. Jill shared some of that in some of the reflections from the State of the Industry survey, that not all of the folks engaging even in our surveys are data viz practitioners, but rather people who have data viz as part of their world. That's going to include new partnerships, like a new partnership with InfoGrate for Future Fridays, amplifying the initiative they've started internal to their organization in the UK to focus on doing collaborations with organizations in the data viz community on visual data experiments to solve real-world challenges around key themes around health, climate, and more. We'll be partnering with InfoGrate and hopefully getting things off the ground with a more global Future Fridays starting in March. We are also continuing with our programs that we found that have been successful. How do we sustain and grow the initiatives that best serve our members and the broader data visualization community? Where we always love to experiment with new ideas. In the financially constrained environment that we've been in, something we want to focus on is taking what we know works well and the things we know we get great feedback on and that serve our members and continue them. So we'll have Outlier Conference in person in Chicago, June 12th through the 14th at Northwestern University's downtown campus, right near the lake. It's going to be fantastic. And we're so excited to partner with the Northwestern University community, and especially grateful to Steve Francaneri, who's helped to shepherd that process of getting that partnership in place. So Outlier will be happening with ticket sales and things coming up soon. We'll have mentorship program continuing on. Nightingale will continue. So many great things. And so I hope that you'll keep an eye out for announcements in the coming week about opening ticket sales, the earliest early bird ticket sales, including steep discounts for our DVS dues paying members, as well as speaker applications for Outlier. Speakers do receive an honorarium as well as a free ticket to the event, and we'll be welcoming both in-person and virtual speakers to be as inclusive as we can be this coming year. If you're looking for other ways to support the DVS board, this is apologies for a bit of an old slide. The education director role is not open. This is my failure to update this one. But chat with us on social media, become a dues paying member, join a committee, sponsor events and programming, find ways to get involved. I think Jason said it best when he talked about the ways in which being part of our community is so critical and important, because it enables us to keep people engaged, to keep those connections growing, to keep conversations happening. And I promise you'll learn more and have more fun working with the wonderful people within the data visualization space. So with that, I'm going to welcome back up all of our wonderful board members to close out our meeting today. Big thanks to everyone who was able to stay on and make time. As we go ahead and we wrap up, I cannot overstate just the immense work that this team has done in terms of making the work of DVS possible. And I hope that you will be excited to dive into some of the backgrounds and goals of our proposed slate and our new incoming board members. So you can go ahead and vote on that slate. Remember that the slate vote that you'll see on the ballot is voting the whole slate up or down. You're not voting member by member. And so we look at the overall makeup of seeing if our slate includes a diverse range of perspectives and where we have a good mix of people from across different backgrounds joining the team. With that, let's go ahead and we'll sign off for the day. Thank you so much to everyone, including folks who have just been joining to hover in the background. Katya, who joined us from Singapore, where it's late in the evening for her. For Rochelle, we're talking about the early wee hours of the morning, where I probably wouldn't have had my coffee already hitting in yet. Angel also over in Vietnam, and everyone spread around the world. But big, huge thanks to everyone for being here. Thank you to all of our DVS members. And with that, we'll go ahead and sign off for this year's annual general meeting. We'll chat more on Slack and hope to see you at Outlier coming up in June, as well as our other events before then. Thanks, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.